Hi, everyone. This week we are here with Andrea Jones. She is a social media strategist who took her business online in 2014, which is terrible at math, 7 years ago
Yeah.
now. 7 years ago, and she now has 11 people on her team working for her in various capacities, which is pretty awesome. And that's amazing. And I would imagine even rewinding for myself, looking at you, I'd be like, how the heck did that happen? So let's talk about it. Um, what happened?
Yeah. Great question. Big question. So it's funny because both of my parents were entrepreneurs, business owners, I should say. And I was always like growing up, I never want that struggle because it seemed so hard. I was so convinced to get the traditional job. Um, but I'm a creative person and I was working at the spa in Atlanta. So there's a few different Spa Citadel, if people live in Atlanta. They're like a boutique spa. I was managing a few locations and I was also creating YouTube videos on the side. So I was kind of just like documenting my life and my little thoughts at the time and collaborated with my husband, kind of like this. We did like an interview style series, and then we kept talking after. This was before we were married, obviously. And that's part of the story. So, because I met him, I quit my job. I moved from Atlanta, Georgia to Toronto, Canada. And that move is when I started the business. I just started freelancing. I was like, no, I could do anything. I have a degree in English literature, so I was writing blog posts for people. I That turned into writing social media posts, which turned into managing social. I didn't realize that was a thing, like a job, because at the time it was kind of like you're the youngest person on the team, Andrea. You manage the spa social, or even friends and family would say, "Hey, I'm starting up this Facebook page. What do I say? What do I do?" And I was already doing that, and I didn't realize it was a job in it. So, with the move to another country, that really was the catalyst for starting the business. Because otherwise, I was really going for like that more traditional, like let's climb the corporate ladder type of work.
And how do you feel looking back about that change, having gone from what you told yourself you're going to do, and then now obviously you ended up following in the footsteps in some ways? Um, what does that feel like for you now in terms of your day to day? Do you look at the other life and think about it, or are you like very now? How has your mindset shifted now that you've been doing it for a while?
I don't think I could have a job. I don't think I could go back to like a traditional job. It would take a lot for me to be able to do that. For number one, I'm making way more money I would have than if I had followed that path. I just basically get to create as much money as I want by building my business online. So that's neat. I also have tattoos now. I wasn't allowed to do that, in corporate America. Um, so I don't think I could go back for those reasons. But I do miss some of it, like, being virtual. Even though I do have a team, there's never like a, happy hour, let's go out for drinks after work kind of thing. So I do miss some aspects of that kind of camaraderie, but honestly, it's opened up so much more. I mean, even in a year like 2020 with the pandemic, I feel like there's a potential for me to get laid off if I was in another traditional job. Whereas my business has benefited because digital marketing is more important now than ever. So, it has its give and take, but mindset totally different. I spend a lot more time at home now, so I made sure my house was like all set up exactly the way that I want it. Um, but yeah, I mean, otherwise, I'm loving it.
Yeah. Um, and what would you say? Because I think so. Your story is a little different, right? Because I think for a lot of the stories that we do on here, right, it's like somebody who really disliked the situation they were in, or things weren't the way they wanted it, or they always dreamed of being an entrepreneur. But it's interesting because you were almost the opposite. Um, so then it raises this question in my mind of like, so what drives you then? What is your ambition? If because it sounds like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like it wasn't about like, oh, I need to go off and do my own thing. It sounds like it was different. So what is it that like drives you to keep going and push through? Because I'm also guessing that it's still not easy, even though like maybe it wasn't like always your dream, and then you're like, oh, it's hard, but it's my dream. It doesn't mean that it's not hard still. So I guess that's two questions. One is, what is your drive, and then two, like, what keeps you going?
Yeah. So it's interesting because you're right in that I didn't necessarily like have this be like my dream and my vision. But honestly, when I worked at the Spy, so I worked for Spa Citadel, which was like a smaller chain, and then I worked for Marriott Spas, which obviously Marriott Hotels is like a huge corporate chain, and that opportunity was the one that I didn't like. Or when I met my husband, he was like, "Oh, this is getting serious. What should we do?" I was like, "I'll leave my job," because I didn't like it. It was very corporate. But in that structure, we took this like leadership training course, and one of the questions was, "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" And at the time, I was like, I would love to just do the social media part of my job. Because even though I was the spa manager, I was running social for the entire hotel because Anna was like one of the youngest on the team. So I would love to just do that piece of the job. They're like, that doesn't exist. That's not a real thing. And so even then, I kind of knew I wanted to play in this space. And so I think that piece of it, because I actually enjoy social media. As an introvert, I have a lot more control over when I show up and how I show up. So that piece of it I really like. But then also when I started my business, I got a taste for this like freedom and flexibility to kind of plan your own day and have your own schedule, and the financial piece of it too, where being 31 years old and being able to have all of these things that I would have never imagined having this early in life. um, that piece of it is a huge driver for me. And so while it wasn't something that I planned on, as soon as I like within that first 6 months of being a freelancer, I was like, oh, this is it. I can't go back now. Because even in that first 6 months, for instance, I took a road trip, drove all the way out to California and back from here. This is like Niagara Falls area in Canada. You can't just tell your job, like, I'm going to be gone for 5 weeks. See you later. I'm working from the road. But with this job, like, literally can do it from anywhere. And so it's things like that that I really like. My husband and I are thinking about having a family potentially, having some kids. And so even that is like, I wouldn't have to like take a mat leave or anything like that. I really could just make it up, schedule whatever I want. So that's a huge driver for me. I really have that choice to do whatever I want, basically. But also the choice to, typically right now, it's to work because I actually like what I do and I like my job. So that's kind of what drives me too, and what keeps me going is that choice. And then also, now that I have a team, I do feel like I have more of a purpose. So when it was just me, it kind of felt like, I was doing this for my clients, but there wasn't like a bigger mission behind it. Whereas with my team, a lot of my team members are women. About half of them do have young families. And so for me, I feel like I'm actually getting to support other people too by giving them an opportunity. So, like, for instance, Katie on my team has a 3-year old and a 3-month old, and she's working 30 hours a week, and she gets to choose that. She is the breadwinner in her family. I hope I'm not telling too many details for her. I probably should have like asked her this first, but
Email Katie after
so
and be like, "This
yeah,
is
like
cool."
email Katie, is this okay? But no, but for me, there's a sense of pride in that, and being able to say, I can help someone else also have a very comfortable life, and to be able to support their family, and for them to be able to have the flexibility to be at home, still work on interesting projects, but have, they don't have to like hire a sitter and be away from their kids working at some agency in a big city, for 9 hours a day or whatever the case may be.
Yeah. No, I totally resonate with that. That's one of the coolest things for me. It's like just to see the flow of everything where it's like some people work really early in the morning, some people work at night after the kids are asleep, some people work in the middle of the day. No one cares. It's like, send out an email with updates at 10 p.m. because that's when you're able to work. Totally cool. Like, it's just like you're still working the same amount, like whatever amount of hours, just like not in this ridiculous structure that well, that's my opinion, ridiculous structure that corporate is like, oh, we need to work these hours and you can't leave to have a family because that will ruin our business. It's like, really? um
Yeah.
no, anyways, that's my rant on that. um I was gonna ask you about your dreams, like, so
Mm.
if this could become anything, like, what would it become?
Yeah, so I want to help more people with this. And everything comes for full circle, right? So like when I was younger, I was like, I want to be a teacher. And now that's what I thought, like elementary school, middle school, high school. And then in high school, I did a student teaching for a semester for the ninth grader. So I was a senior, I did it for the freshmen. Awful. Like they ate me alive. I'm very introverted. I actually talk very softly. And I could not, it was awful. It was just a horrible experience. I was like, I'm never going to teach ever again because people are terrible people. Um, However, now it's come full circle because I am teaching a lot more in my business. I'm teaching my team how to do this, and then I run the Savvy Social School where I teach entrepreneurs how to do this. And a subsection of that is other social media managers how to do this for their clients. So for me, I see more of that teaching side because I'm actually able to help more people. Whereas right now, when on the agency side, we have about 20 clients and our team is like, we're pretty maxed. We just hired on another person to help, but there's only so many, like running the agency side is just a lot of man hours. And so for me, I would love to teach more and just show people how to do this. Other people, like social media managers, how to build their own businesses, or just smaller businesses, how to do this. So that's kind of where I see like the 5-10 year goal. And then like the 20-year goal, 30-year goal would to be like one of the sharks on Shark Tank. Like I want to invest in people's businesses and, be like a mentor to business owners and get to work on cool projects and yeah, do some of those things. So that's kind of like for me, like the big dreams is to become more of a maybe more of like a business coach instead of just focusing on the social side.
Hmm. All right, selfish question, because this is literally what I was pondering this morning. How do you balance pushing yourself every day with the realization that if you want to become a shark, it's probably not going to happen for like 10 to 20 years?
Yes. A lot of it is just so for me, I feel like I get to play around in a lot of people's businesses already. So I get a lot of insights. What makes businesses work, what makes them not work, all of that hustle piece. And so for me, I just feel like that's like it just feels very far away. So for me, it's kind of like that's in the future. I'm just going to play around where I am right now. And I think that's part of my personality type is I can't think much past the next 2 years really, other than like big, hairy, scary goal. And I would say a person who actually, strangely enough, inspired this is Gary Vee, even though he's way more hustle than I personally like. He's always got these big goals that he just like speaks out there. Like, I'm going to own, what does he say? The Jets or something, some
Mm-hmm.
football team or yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so like just to have that out there floating there, that's kind of like for me, it's like that's my 20-30 year goal. Not today. So, I'll just focus on what's in front of me. And I see all of this as perfecting my craft. So in order to get there, I actually think I'll have to own like several different businesses before that point. So this is the business that I have now. been working on it for 7 years. Who knows what the next business will be? There may be something else that pops up. For me right now, too, I'm saving money. So, in order to be like a shark, in order to invest, be like an angel investor in a business, you have to have a lot of cash. And so for me, that's part of it too. It's like, okay, I'm building up this like reservoir of cash because it's very expensive to get into that space. And it's not like you just pick one business and invest. You invest in like 100 businesses and maybe two of them are successful kind of thing. So you kind of have to be okay with like losing a lot of money. And so that's part of what this is too, is like I'm investing into that both with my knowledge and getting to work with so many businesses, and then also with my dollars and saving them up and investing in smaller ways now so that I can in bigger ways in the future.
Mm. On the subject of money, are you a spender or a saver? Or how risky are you with your money?
I'm very risky. I'm way too risky. Um, I think it's part of the entrepreneur thing. So I actually have become a lot better since I met my husband. Um, he would not agree, but before I met him, I was just awful at money and all of the things. I'm a spender. I love spending money. I don't like if it sits in the bank account, it makes me feel itchy. And so for me, that has been tough, but part of it is like investing helps me feel better about that. So we invest in like here in Canada, there's things that you can invest in, kind of like a 401k type of situation. um, and you can do mutual funds. There's so many other things you can do where at least I can put it in there and then I can go, okay, it's like doing something, it's not just like sitting there. But then also we had so in 2018, I made a lot of risky business decisions and actually had a dip in income and revenue. That was very scary for me. And so that also kind of like whipped me into shape to be like, no, 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 you need like backup savings in case that happens. Because we blew through like our savings like that. We ended up pulling money out of those long term investments, which you get penalized for massively when you do that. And so it was moments like that where I go, okay, no, I need to like have cash saved in the bank because, running a business is a big investment and you kind of have to have that ready to go just in case for a rainy day.
Yep. Yeah, I resonate with that. I'm also the spender, and my girlfriend is the one that reined me in on that on the personal front. And then our COO did the same thing in our business to where now things are like very stable, but I just like love taking risks. And so it's just like, it's the worst that you have to like be careful about things like that. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
but I totally resonate with your story about having a dip because the same thing happened to us in 2017 and we almost lost it.
yeah.
And that was like after we've been in business for 3 or 4 years. That sucks. And
Yeah.
it's enough to scare you into shape. Um, cool. Well, we're coming up on our time here, but this is fascinating. I love hearing your perspective on all of this and where things are headed and just where your mind's at. If anybody's listening and wants to check out what you got going on, or interested in kind of what it looks like to have a business at your stage, where can they see what you have and what you offer online?
Yeah. So the podcast is typically a great place to start. So you can find the Savvy Social Podcast. Like if you're listening to this or watching this on YouTube, we're everywhere where you find podcasts. That's kind of like what I teach, my philosophy there. And then I also have a free course as well, onlinedrea.com/free, where you can sign up, learn some really good, solid foundations for social media.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.